I wanted to do was build space rockets. But it was not to be. The space race between America and Russia became the prey of politicians. The space race and the arms race are one and the same. Missiles, rockets, what's the difference? Scientists are always being used. Please, watch over my family.
Snake is unable to respond to Sokolov's lamentations, as at that very moment they are interrupted by Volgin. Snake hastily replaces his Rykov mask.
Major, what are you doing here? I've been waiting for you in my room.
As if that wasn't suggestive enough, upon getting no response from Snake, Volgin inexplicably grabs his balls, as if to confirm his identity. Not just once, but twice, mind you. Somehow, this is all the evidence Volgin needs to determine that this is not in fact Rykov.
Who are you?
Volgin pulls a tiny handgun on Snake, or perhaps it is normal sized, he just has massive hands. It is Sokolov who takes 2 bullets to his legs. Snake is forced to disarm Volgin using CQC. Despite his immense size, Volgin is easily overpowered and tossed to the ground. It is then that the boss enters the room and begins to fight Snake.
What is this fairy disguise? It's gonna rub off on you. And then you'll lose sight of who you really are.
The boss will only accept a straight son. While the boss has Snake pinned, Volgin attempts to execute him, but the boss isn't having it.
Stay out of this!
I see why they call you the boss. What was that? Some kind of judo?
No, it's called CQC, a basic form of close quarters combat. He and I developed it together.
Splendid. I'll take it from here.
The boss walks away, clearly troubled, as Volgin brutally electro-pummels Snake into unconsciousness. It is difficult to watch. Snake awakens sometime later in complete darkness. He is tied up with a bag over his head. Snake hears Tatiana in the room, pleading for Volgin to stop. Ocelot is there also, silently observing, visibly uncomfortable at the sight of this torture. He clutches not pearls, but his bullet necklace. Volgin wants to know Snake's target. The Shagohod, Sokolov, the Philosopher's Legacy. Volgin stupidly reveals everything Snake would ever need to know about the Legacy, which isn't even Snake's objective.
No matter. The Philosopher's Legacy is safely in my possession, in the underground vault of Groznygrad.
The boss enters with Tatiana in tow. Presumably, Tatiana had witnessed some of the torture, then ran off to get the boss's help. The two seem to be working in league with each other. To first-time players, the situation seems dire, but what they will later realize is that Snake is surrounded by allies. Volgin is the only enemy. Everyone else in that room, the boss, Ocelot, and Eva, are doing whatever they can to save Snake without Volgin realizing it. Upon finding the tracker the boss placed on Snake, Volgin voices his suspicions, but flinches and even retreats when the boss closes the gap between them.
You don't trust me, is that it?
Not that!
Regaining his composure, he asks her to prove her loyalty.
But he is your apprentice.
What do you want me to do?
Let's see. Cut out his eyes.
Behind his back, Tatiana shakes her head at the boss. The boss slowly withdraws her knife and removes the black bag concealing Snake's face. She brings her knife right up to his eye. Though he is trembling, Snake seems to be doing everything in his power to keep his gaze fixed on the boss. The moment of tension is interrupted when Tatiana grabs the boss's arm and begs her to
Stop!
Now Ocelot pipes up.
Why are you protecting him?
Ocelot accuses Tatiana of being the spy, and withdraws his revolvers to test her. It is unclear what his 3-revolver juggling act is supposed to accomplish, but clearly this is just intended to be a diversion. However, there is a bullet loaded into the chamber of each of the guns. Was he intending to harm Eva? Was he planning on killing her or simply injuring her enough to distract Volgin? There is mounting evidence to assume the boss and Tatiana are on the same side. But Ocelot remains a wild card. He seems to have Snake's best interest at heart, but he may care nothing for Eva or even consider her to be acceptable collateral damage. We will never know the outcome, as Snake unexpectedly intervenes. He swings himself at Ocelot, knocking the Russian cowboy off balance, causing him to pull the trigger right into Snake's eye at point-blank range. Thankfully, it is at such an angle that it merely grazes the eye rather than penetrating into the brain. There is no bullet left behind to extract. The boss slaps Ocelot across the face.
There, satisfied now?
Well, that was refreshing. Come, we're going to my room.
Volgin has apparently forgotten the whole purpose of the torture. He has also forgotten that he wanted the boss to prove her loyalty. He's too horny to think straight right now, and makes that Tatiana's problem. It might not be clear what Ocelot does next, but he places the tracker back into Snake, embedding it deeply into one of his open wounds. Ocelot also seems to have had a change of heart about torture.
Watching this has made me realize something. It's really not that bad. It's the ultimate form of expression.
The boss paradoxically shoots Snake in the leg, then tells him to run. She also places the revolver into his belt before leaving. Now only Eva remains. She has just enough time to tell Snake that she has his gear, and how he can escape and where they can meet up, before the guards arrive to place him within a cell. Snake is somehow still able to radio the paramedic. He is in a lot of pain, but he doesn't tell her what happened. Instead, he asks her to distract him, and she decides to discuss his least favorite topic.
Come on, I don't want to hear this.
And there, standing before Renfield in human form was...
Dracula.
Exactly!
If players remember the code the Soros secretly shared in the torture room, they simply dial that frequency and the cell doors will open. With no gear and no shirt to protect him against the Russian winter, Snake must crawl bare, injured flesh along the freezing concrete grounds to reach the sewers of Groznygrad. What a badass. Snake wades his open wounds to the dirty sewer water. He nearly escapes undetected when he is spotted by guard dogs who chase him to the edge of the sewer outlet, which opens several stories above the river. Snake is bathed in an eerie yellow glow as he stands on the precipice of the outlet. He is cornered. He is out of options. He may be killed by the guards, or he may be killed by plummeting to the river far below. It is Ocelot who once more intervenes.
I've been waiting
And we
for
end this block just as he gleefully unholsters his revolver.
Nobody interfere.
Ask the Metal Girl. You are listening to Metal Girl Solid. I am your Metal Girl, Courtney Colson, and this is episode 11. This block runs from 5 hours 30 minutes to 6 hours, and begins with Sokolov saying, "Khrushchev has abandoned me, I cannot return to my country," and ends with Ocelot saying, "I've been waiting for this, nobody interfere." I've got lots to discuss here as I too have monocular vision, although fortunately it is only intermittent, but we'll get to that. So was Eva right? Does Snake regret not killing Ocelot when he had the chance? For most players, this scene of ocular mutilation was inevitable, as if you would have a prequel game about Big Boss and not show how he lost his eye. But for me, I had no idea. I didn't know anything about Big Boss prior to playing this game. So I was playing the Legacy Collection, and on the cover, you do see, I think it's a Peace Walker style Big Boss. But I mean, it's quite dark, so maybe I just wasn't even paying attention to the eye patch. And then when you open up the game, yeah, again, you see the Shinkawa art. I don't know, it didn't... When you're playing something for the first time, you're just not really registering anything. I've watched this scene a few times now, and it still makes me uncomfortable. The first time was worse, of course. It just seemed like Snake's suffering was unending, and it just got worse and worse. You could say it was torture. Disfigurement in fiction is almost exclusively reserved for the villain. James Bond is the perfect vision of a man, whereas his enemies almost always bear some visible injuries or deformities. Superman, another flawless man, where Lex Luthor is always bold and sometimes overweight or old. Batman, another tall, dark and handsome type, whereas his Rose Gallery are a bunch of freaks. If they don't have physical disfigurements, they make up for that with a freakish costume. More freakish than dressing up as a bat, arguably. Disfigured protagonists tend to be anti-heroes. You would never design a character like Deadpool or Spawn and give them the personality of Superman or Spider-Man. I'm sure there are exceptions, but they are rare and they tend to be supporting characters, not the lead protagonist. The Hunchback of Notre Dame might be the one big exception, and really that's more the case in the Disney version rather than the Victor Hugo novel. Does RoboCop count as a disfigured hero? Yes, I'd say so, but he retains his handsome face, maintaining that humanity was a crucial element of that story. What about blinded eyes? Where do they factor in? Blind characters are generally oracle-type characters. They are either literal oracles or shamans, or they are the character who is the most perceptive in the cast despite being blind. Blindness can be used as a way to create sympathy for a character. They're often portrayed as helpless. Daredevil loses his eyesight, but the rest of his senses are heightened to a superhuman degree. He is a noble, idealistic hero, a good Catholic boy despite donning the costume of a devil. But what about characters who lose only one eye? Often, they are the villains. And often, they have a big scar over one eye. We are either shown the milky white eye or they wear an eye patch. Of course, there are exceptions, as with all tropes. Guts in the manga Berserk loses one of his eyes after, no spoilers, he was brutally betrayed by a close friend. He was an innocent victim. We never see the state of his eyeball after that. Instead, Guts has permanent ptosis that's P-T-O-S-I-S, it's a weird word, ptosis in his right eye. Ptosis is a condition caused by nerve damage resulting in the eyelids drooping, and this is what I have in my left eye. Thankfully, it's intermittent ptosis, so it's not a permanent disability, but it comes and goes once or twice a day. Oh, and that's another thing to note. If a character loses an eye, it's almost always the right. Even in real life, people have lost their right eye more than their left. No idea why. It's not like there's any particular statistics on that. It's just that, well, now I need an eye patch for my left eye. I really look around at other people with some kind of ocular issue and I go, okay, that's right eye, right. Oh, there's a left. Very, very rare. No idea why. Guts' disfigurement is not exactly there to elicit sympathy, rather it makes him look hardened and badass. It shows that this character has survived hell. Literal hell. So what about eye patches? Where do they fit into all of this? Well, Guts initially had one, but the artist, Kentaro Miura, decided it didn't suit Guts, and I think he's right about that. Eye patches are strongly associated with pirates, which is ironic because there has never been any documented evidence of any pirate wearing one. It isn't inconceivable, of course, and they were commonly worn by wounded sailors. But this strong association between pirate and eye patch is a pure fabrication of fiction. Much like horns on the helmet of Vikings, it never happened.
We made this one up. It's a made-up tale. It's a total fabrication. It never happened. This one was invented by a writer.
It is a, simulacrum. It also annoys me because every time I wear my eye patch, someone's got to call me a pirate, to which I say, no, I'm Big Boss. They gave me this crappy plastic eye patch in the hospital and it hurt to wear, it just digs right into the bone. So I made my own eye patch out of leather, proper professional quality, and as an exact replica of Snakes that I could make. Snake in Metal Gear wears an eye patch as an homage to Snake Plissken, the anti-hero of John Carpenter's Escape from New York, as portrayed by Kurt Russell. Plissken is clearly the basis for Solid and Naked Snake's appearances overall, and, the name. We are never given an explanation as to how Plissken lost his eye, it is simply the rule of cool. It's visual shorthand to show that this guy is a badass and he's seen some shit. He's seen so much it took an eye out. Snake Plissken is one of the few characters who lost his left eye, not his right, and Solidus would lose his left eye as well, which confuses me, so I assumed I know almost nothing about Solidus other than he looks like Dr. Octavius. So I thought it was kind of a Venom Snake situation where Solidus is a big boss decoy, and so they either blinded him or just made him wear the eye patch, but it's on the opposite eye. So did he genuinely lose his eye? And if so, what are the fucking odds? Eye patches are very rare these days. I've only ever seen maybe 3 or 4 people with eye patches in real life. And they tend to be the simple medical bandage types. This is because medical interventions have improved considerably. There are even realistic glass eyes to replace blind eyes. I could choose to have my ptosis surgically corrected, fixing the muscles, the nerves around the eye. But I trust doctors about as far as I can throw them, and I would prefer to live like this than risk going under general anesthesia again, and then wake up and they say, oh, whoops, we fucked up, now you're blinded that eye. No, I don't. I got trust issues, man. Dan Crenshaw is the most notable example of a modern eye patch wearer. He is quite the eye patch connoisseur. He has a little bit of a collection, and I'll link to a video on that in the citations. Crenshaw is an American senator and former Navy SEAL. He lost his right eye, in the line of duty, and he figured it would be totally badass to wear an eye patch, and he is right about that. He gets annoyed at the big boss comparisons, but again, I would rather that than being compared to a pirate. When I played Snake Eater for the first time, I wasn't aware that Big Boss would eventually become a villain. I still don't fully accept that. Part of me is hoping that there is more nuance to it than that. But upon playing Snake Eater for the first time, I, of course, didn't take this scene to be any kind of foreshadowing of villainy. Snake Plissken wears an eye patch, now Naked Snake does too. Didn't think there was much more to it than that. There is a huge learning curve or adaptation phase to living with monocular vision, and I'm glad that I don't have to live with it permanently. There were times I would feel this sort of panic or claustrophobia when my eye was shut. I could see, but nothing looked right and it didn't feel real. It's hard to explain. And not having the freedom of just opening my eye when I wanted to, it's a bit of a shock. I had to relearn depth perception in the way I drove. Basically, there's a lot of stuff we do over the course of a day which is purely based on what our eyes are showing us. We don't have to make conscious calculations. But with monocular vision, when I was reaching for an object, I had to recalibrate how far I expected my hand to have to extend to reach it. Nowadays, I can just shake someone's hand with my eye patch on, no worries. When I drive, for a long time, I tended to stick to the left lane so that I'd never have to worry about overtaking someone on my left because I never knew when that whole side was going to become a blind spot. Nowadays, I have no issues. I just learn to turn my head more and give a much wider margin between my car and the one behind me. Or just drive with the top down, kind of helps a 360 degree view. I also had to teach myself to pay more attention to where the curb and the lines in the road were in relation to the features in my dashboard. That way I could know objectively that I was in the center of the lane. Before my injuries, I would just eyeball it. I didn't have to think consciously about whether I was central in the lane or not. But if you give it a go yourself, try driving with one eye and initially go, oh, I'm way over to the side. No, you're where you should be. Back to Naked Snake. Where does he get that eye patch? Eva found it at very short notice. The player's prior actions throughout the game will determine how Volgin reacts to you. I guess he's dead. Now then, I hope you'll prove more entertaining than he was. But first, let me take a look at your body, shall we? And his comments will be based on how many wounds you have. If you've received a lot, you're a tough one, my friend. A lesser man would be dead by now. If you're only moderately injured, you've certainly seen your share of battles. Consider yourself lucky. I'm about to show you what hell is really like. And if you've had very little, what a beautiful body you have. Like a newborn baby, but not for long. Volgin claims he can generate 10 million volts. This is comparable to lightning, which is estimated to range from 20 million to 120 million volts. Now, I mentioned that using the Sorrow's frequency unlocks a cell door, but using the death pill is also another tactic. Johnny Sasaki is your guard, and apparently someone I should know, but I don't yet. Simulacra and Simulation. My vote for Simulation this episode is without a doubt the opening part of the torture sequence. It was the most shocking part of the game. It is intense and throws off your expectations as to how this game has functioned until this moment. You're only shown blackness as you hear Volgin torturing you. You're helpless to do anything. It's effective storytelling, and this is a way in which games can create empathy, in a way movies can't. Because there is no agency within a film. Here, in a game, your movement, which you once possessed, has been robbed from you. You expect to be able to move, but you can't, building tension and anxiety. I was definitely caught off guard by how this scene unfolded the first time I played, as I said. I had wondered if I had played it wrong and then there was something I was supposed to do, because my health was decreasing, which is a brilliant touch. You are not a passive viewer witnessing a cutscene. Technically, you are an active player and participant, just as Snake is. And, just like Snake, there is absolutely nothing you can do to escape this torture. The simulacrum in this episode is every time Snake faints. Fainting in fiction is always a plot contrivance. You incapacitate a character as long as it's needed for the sake of the story. But it is so commonplace that we, as the audience, think nothing of it. We expect it to be so. But as someone who has fainted and experienced a traumatic brain injury, the brain does everything in its power to remain awake. Fainting spells only last for a few seconds to a minute. It occurs because the brain is deprived of oxygen. I have fainted several times before. It is brief, and then you wake up feeling extremely nauseous and disoriented. It feels like you've just been drowning. Okay, so what happens when you hit someone over the head? Rarely will they drop to the ground as if you switched them off. When I was hit by that car I keep talking about, incredibly, I remained awake the entire time. Or so I'm told. I wish I had simply fallen gracefully into a coma. Instead, I was just incessantly babbling nonsense. So cringe. Kept trying to wander off. It was embarrassing. God damn. Now, there is nothing that specifically states how long Snake remained unconscious for after Volgin pummeled him in Sokolov's cell. But there is strong implication that Snake only comes to after the interrogation has begun. The Piggyback Game Guide. Fake death pill, which the boss shot into Snake's leg. Okay! I wondered where that came from. Fake death pill, which the boss shot into Snake's leg, and a transmitter that Ocelot stuck into his back. You can remove both objects with the fork you find lying on the floor of the cell. Okay, now I finally know. I wondered where I guess I didn't think too much about where the death pill came. I just thought, oh, he still has it on him, and they just didn't. It's just a pill. They didn't think too much of it. So that's how she shot it into his leg. How? I got some questions. And then yeah, Ocelot. Now I I've played this game many times. Had no idea what Ocelot was doing in that scene. This is why you have me. I've done all the research so I can explain it all to you. Apparently you can't do CQC without a knife. That's what the game guide says. Johnny will show you his family photo, on the reverse side of which is the Sorrow's radio frequency, just in case you missed it the first time. This is a non-diegetic code, I guess. He will also give you the gas cigs. Once free, run to the left, west, and stay close to the wall until you reach the door to Groznygrad northwest. A guard will notice you, but if you just keep running, nothing will happen. I wonder if that's intentional. Just act like you belong there and no one will notice. That is the best piece of advice I can give you. The Japanese Novelization. Pages 300 to 330. 306. Snake says the Shagohod is bigger than a T-22 tank. This was a prototype tank from World War II that never saw mainstream production due to transmission issues. There was only one ever produced. It was by Chrysler. It's not exactly the first thing Snake would think of or even know about. I think it's just kind of a showy reference on the part of Satoshi, the author. In Groznygrad, Snake notices that all the lockers contain bottles of alcohol. You know, 'cause they're Russian. 310. In addition to the alcohol, there was also a large number of boxes of snacks that were likely for snacking. No shit. 311. Description of Rykov. The man was young, thin, androgynous, Russian. His name was Major Ivan Rydanovich Rykov. Snake painstakingly concealed his masculine jawline, somehow, and used makeup to hide his jungle-tanned skin. The more he looked, the more he realized Rykov was handsome enough to pass for an actor. A wig wouldn't replicate the man's gorgeous, lustrous blonde hair, and his hands bore no resemblance to Snake's scarred ones, so he was grateful for the black leather gloves. At least he still had 2 eyes back then. That would probably be harder to disguise himself. They both got blue eyes. 2 blue eyes. Page 312. What kind of science are they doing here? Stored on the shelves were samples of human skin, organs, and bones floating in liquid in glass containers. It was a tranquil but irreverently, rationally organized corpse storage facility. Irreverently, rationally organized corpse storage facility. 313. Snake wanted to examine the glass container on the nearest shelf because it looked like a severely burned piece of skin. Avoiding the electric lights that might be monitoring the power status, he quietly entered the dark room and checked the label on the container by the light that leaked in. The collection location was Solinoyarsk. The collection date was August 24th, 1964. It was the day of the Varshas mission, the day OKB-754 was attacked by a nuclear bomb. Unable to pray for a moment in silence, he stared at reality. Volgin and his team brought the victims of the nuclear attack here to dissect them to study the effects on the human body. All of these were human specimens to contribute to the nuclear war. He seemed to blame the boss for her crimes and Snake's own powerlessness in not being able to stop it. He put the specimen back on the shelf and he left through the door. Now that he knew, the whole West Wing seemed to reek of death. This was probably a research facility for continuing the war under nuclear attack. Was Sokolov working in the West Wing to ensure the Shagohod could be operated even in a scorched earth contaminated by radiation? He wanted to ask, but he was also afraid. It seemed that the limit of humanity lay within this building. And so this whole thing is a nod back to the opening chapter. I don't know if you remember that, but he has this nice bit of world building that adds to the overall story and the history. That opening bit, it wasn't just, completely disconnected or only loosely connected to the main plot. No, that comes back. He had a point to make, I see. Here's the crotch grab scene at page 325. Who are you? There's no way Snake can answer that. As if he'd figured out who he was just by feeling his crotch. Volgin yells at him. And the fairy disguise part at 327. What's with that outfit? If you lie for too long, you will be eroded. Not quite the same effect as the actual dialogue. And that is everything for this block. Over and out.